Where is Pietro?
I cannot tell you. But Micheletto waits at the city gate east of the Terme di Traiano. He intends to disguise his men to make the killing look like an accident.
He will lead me to Lucrezia's lover.
Ezio, Machiavelli has betrayed us. We would both wish to deny it, but the truth is now clear. Do what needs to be done. If you don't, I will.
Without Volpe's thieves, I may require the help of my recruits.
Tail Micheletto. Tail Micheletto to the play's location. While following him, discover a way for the Assassino recruits to infiltrate the play. Use Assassino recruits to assassinate your targets. Sorry, I was just reading the keywords here from the Animus. Locate Micheletto. Hey, does anyone have a Michelob Golden Light?
A Michelob Golden Light?
I'm hoping to be sponsored.
Oh, hey, my featured title with the Disney Movie Club. Oh, no.
What is it?
It's Lightyear. Quickly cancel!
You don't want Lightyear?
Well, I want the Steelbook.
Francesco Trocchi. Dear friend, would I lie to you? You told your brother about my war plans in Romagna, who contacted the ambassador of Venezia.
It was an accident. I am still your servant and ally.
Are you demanding that I discount your actions and rely on friendship?
I am asking, not demanding.
To unite Italia, I must have every institution under my control. And if the church does not fall in line, I will eliminate it entirely.
You know that I really work for you, not the Pope.
Ah, but do I, Trocchi? There's only one way I can know that unconditionally now.
You intend to kill me? Your most loyal friend?
Of course not.
Are you letting me go? Thank you, Cesare. You will not regret...
Guards! Give Micheletto the costumes for the play. Lucrezia is mine. No one else shall have her. Make doubly sure it is done correctly.
I obey, Cesare.
Oh yes. Dump Francesco's body in the Tevere.
Wait, but he said he wouldn't kill him. He's a liar.
You know how liars go.
That's even worse.
You have to tail him.
I will. I was looking at these gates. Porta Nomenta was originally constructed as a single arch entrance. The porta was flanked by two semicircular towers. It was converted to a tomb for a man by the name of Quintus Aterius.
Okay.
Who's said to have been a man made rotten by flattery, but history had the last laugh. The gate is now incorporated into the wall of the British Embassy. Huh. Interesting.
Oh, okay. So basically they're saying the British Embassy was built here in later years.
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy who was just killed...
Francesco Tocci.
...was Senator Egidio Trocchi's younger brother. So he worked for the Vatican. He was an agent of the Pope. He spied on Lucrezia while she was in the countryside. Basically, he was involved in a lot of this stuff. But then he, Basically, he strangled Francesco, or after Micheletto... No, I'm sorry, Francesco's this guy, and he was strangled by Micheletto. But it's interesting because he had accidentally shared the secrets of Cesare's, like, war raids that he wanted to do. So that's why he was killed.
His war rapes?
Raids, yeah.
Oh, raids. Okay.
The reason I'm reading these, by the way, is... Oh, okay. They actually do play into the story and, like, make motivations more clear on why things are happening.
Right.
And I think that the first time I played this game, I read 0 of them.
I think so, too.
And
I think I just powered through the game.
And I remember not understanding some things and be like, why did he kill that guy? Or, like, why did this happen?
Yeah.
And now that I played it again, it makes a lot more sense when I'm reading these. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Thank you. Very cool. And that's why I'm against people moving to the United States.
I hate immigration.
Anyone.
What are your thoughts?
Probably negative.
Whoa. Oh no. Ah! No. Why is he randomly going up this way?
No, don't follow me!
Why is he, like, hunting you down? What are your thoughts on... Do you think America was justified in the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Whoa. He's coming back. Not really, no.
You don't think they were justified?
Not really. No, I think it was kind of bullshit, but I understand why it happened.
Right.
I think that it's, haven't we talked about this, dude?
Have we?
I thought we did.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, we can talk about it again if you'd like. It's a very serious topic. I think that when you commit a war crime against civilians on that scale instead of targeting military, I think that that's pretty bad. I mean, didn't we go after people for doing that in 9/11 just to 2 buildings?
Yeah.
So, like, what's the difference? I mean, ours was worse.
Right. Well, I think that... So I've been reading a biography on Harry Truman, and I just read about the bombing of Hiroshima, so that's why it's, like, in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But before reading this biography, I basically had the mindset of, I think they were justified because the Japanese,
Want to
like...
get dressed? You follow me to the place.
This doesn't matter.
Well, the Japanese were, like, not surrendering from this war
Right.
at all, and to save the loss of more American and Japanese lives, by the way, both people's lives.
Yeah, but really
We should just-
American.
Right. Well, we should...
Whoa.
Whoa, jeez. Can you drop?
No.
Are you stuck here?
Yeah.
Remember when this happened in Assassin's Creed 2? Remember that? We, like, glitched? Wait, just
Yeah.
wait till we reduce his distance to target.
I know, but I just wanted to see if I could get out.
Oh.
Whoa. Alright, I had a bit of an issue here.
Wow.
And that is where Ezio was entombed.
Okay. So, basically, in order to save the lives of both countries and end the war, we basically just needed to do something drastic to kind of get them to stop. Like, surrender, finally.
Yeah, that's the argument.
And, well, I actually understand that argument, and, well, I definitely see the mindset behind it, and I agree, actually. Like, I personally agree. The more I read about it, the more I kind of go, there was other avenues you could have taken, and were already planning on taking, that didn't involve decimating 2 cities. Or I should say, at least decimating 2 cities. You could have stopped after Hiroshima. Because Hiroshima was bombed on August 6, 1945. They bombed Nagasaki August 9th. You gave the country 3 days. 3 days to surrender before you were like, oh, let's bomb another city! And to me, it's kind of like, you could have just stopped at Hiroshima if you wanted to use that. You could have stopped there.
Right, or you could have gone after a military target and used
could
a
have.
smaller bomb.
Which actually, Hiroshima was a military target, because that was one of the Japanese's biggest army plants city. I don't know how to say that.
But the problem is, most of the people who died, I believe, were not military.
Right, so at Hiroshima, I could be wrong with these numbers specifically, but I think it was less than 100,000 people died at that one specific bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about 10,000 of them were soldiers. So yeah, like 80% of the people that died were civilians.
Right, you killed like 80,000 people just because.
Right. Now, some of the arguments I do actually see is a lot of Truman's war advisors were...
That's stupid.
A lot of his war advisors, because Truman, before even using the bomb...
I have to end this clip.
Okay, I'll continue then.
It's just getting to the point where it keeps cutting out. Could you pause it?
Yeah.
You were going to justify Harriet Truman killing people?
Harriet Truman? Yeah, so basically, before he ever used the bomb in the first place,
Why did he
How did he see this? He asked people like Douglas MacArthur and some of the other U.S. generals to essentially create a estimate for how many people how many people on both sides they think would die if they went through with an invasion plan of Japan. Because Douglas MacArthur and some of the other generals in the Pacific actually came up with an invasion plan. The plan was to essentially, and it would be very similar to Normandy, essentially, where they would dock at the Japanese city of Kyoto, or Kyushu, or whatever it was.
Kyoshi.
And- no, they were not going to dock on Kyoshi Island.
I'd like to dock in Kyoshi.
I
She's
would
pretty
too.
hot.
But it was either Kyoto or Kyushu. They're two different cities, actually. Those are two different cities, and I don't remember which one the plan was to invade from.
Okay.
But essentially, they would go there, and then they would just move north through Japan and take out the country until they surrendered. Kind of exactly like they did with France. They just kept pushing the Yazis through France until they got to Germany. So he basically was like, well, first of all, how long would this take? They estimate about 6 months. And then he said, and give me an estimate on how many lives you think would be lost for this entire plan to go through. And I think Douglas MacArthur estimated about 700,000 people.
Right.
And that's including Americans and Japanese, of people that would die in this invasion plan. And then he asked some of the scientists who made the bomb, how many people do you think one of these bombs would kill? And do you know what their numbers were? They estimated probably 20 to 50,000 people.
So they didn't know how strong their own
They
bomb
did not
was?
know how strong their own bomb was, because the one they tested in Alamogordo, New Mexico, they actually tested a nuclear bomb in New Mexico, was actually not as... It was almost as strong, but it was actually not as strong as the one they launched on Hiroshima. So, all their numbers and tests, and of course they did it in a desert, so like no one would get hurt.
The detection on this is really
Why
bad.
is this guy the most...
perceptive guy?
Yeah,
of
like
all
we have
time?
Daredevil. So...
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So essentially, they didn't really know how powerful their bomb actually was. So if you want to look at the numbers indicate, okay, we could lose 700,000 people or 20 to 50,000 people.
Right.
The numbers kind of tell me, like, okay, that makes sense. I understand why they say, okay, what if we just launch a big scary bomb? It kills 20 to 50,000 people instead of 700,000 people, and then because it's big and scary, the Japanese surrender, and then the war ends. I get that. I understand that. I can get behind that. Now, their numbers were not actually that far off, because I think at Hiroshima alone, I want to say it was 100,000 people that died. I think Nagasaki was the more powerful of the two, and I think that one totaled...
I'm getting so mad.
I don't really understand this.
They shouldn't put so many guards along the path if you're supposed to follow this guy.
Right.
They shouldn't be right along the path to follow him.
And then make the guy the most perceptive guy of all time.
So wait, you were saying you did agree with it before you read it, but now you still agree with it now that you read it?
Well, now that I've read about it, now I am more in the mindset of I see both sides. I think it was a little drastic. I think it was OP, and I think it was probably pretty disgusting and
OP.
pretty... Yeah. And I think it was pretty gross and cruel and everything. But at the same time, I'm also kind of like, okay, but if they're estimating... Now, we don't know what the numbers would have been because an invasion force never happened. But if they're estimating 700,000 people would die from an invasion force... And between Nagasaki and Hiroshima, I think it was something like 400,000 between the two. If those are the numbers we're going by, the one side, well, it's more gruesome. You do save about 300,000 people's lives. And so it's like, I get that argument. But then as I was reading more about it at the Potsdam conference, which Potsdam is a city in Germany, that Stalin, after they liberated Nazi Germany, Stalin, Truman, and Winston Churchill met at this city called Potsdam to basically have a conference to discuss, well, what do we do with Europe? Because Poland wasn't a country basically anymore. The Soviets had taken over the entire eastern half of the country, and then the Nazis took over the entire western half of the country. So Poland didn't even have borders anymore. So essentially their mindset was, well, we got to recreate Poland. What do we do with Germany? So on and so forth. So they met at the Potsdam conference. Well, at this conference, Harry Truman asked Stalin to essentially help with their invasion plan, and Stalin was okay with it. Now, the goal was the Japanese had taken over this land in China called Manchuria, which Manchuria was a region of land in between Korea and Russia that China owns. The Japanese had taken over that land, and the Chinese wanted it back. So essentially,
It's a very long explanation, Nate.
sorry,
It's a very, very complex thing.
it is a complex issue. So essentially, sorry, I'll keep it really brief.
No, you can talk about it. I was just giving you a hard
Okay.
time.
So essentially, they had already created this plan.
Look at how this guy walked. It's like the most enforced.
Determined person ever.
Come on, ladies.
So essentially, they already created this plan to have the Soviets invade from the north. MacArthur and the other generals in the Pacific would invade from the south, which would essentially, I think, double the invasion time anyways, because it would create significant, I think it would cut it in half. So first of all, you create this whole invasion plan, which involves now 2 different countries.
Right.
And Stalin agreed to it, and he said he'd have his troops ready by August 15th. They would be ready to march in there. And instead of taking the time to try to liberate other Japanese colonies like Manchuria or like Borneo, which is like modern-day Thailand, and stuff like that, instead of taking the time to go there and decreasing the power that Japan held over the Pacific region anyways, which would decrease their power anyways, you essentially just cut back on your invasion plan, and you essentially are like, why don't we drop a nuke
Right.
on Hiroshima? Which, again, if it was just the one nuke would have done the trick. And this is also not mentioning the fact that Japan was also on the cusp of surrendering anyways. Because what either they didn't know or never was told to them or brought to their attention is the Japanese government was fine surrendering. Here's the caveat they didn't want. The Allies were asking...
nuked.
Right.
Just don't nuke us.
Just please don't.
And they
Like,
nuked them to
oh,
get them
interesting.
well, we don't accept your demands. I like the idea that the U.S. is like, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
So we're going to nuke your city.
So, like, the one thing they didn't want was the Allies were asking for unconditional surrender.
No.
Now, what unconditional surrender means is basically Emperor Hirohito has to step down. Because it's unconditional. It means...
Did he end up stepping down? By
No.
the way?
He was actually emperor until, like, the 80s when he died. But Hirohito, and Japan, in their culture at the time, they were still in the emperor worship phase. So, essentially, what the Allies were asking was, you need to depose your god. Which, of course, they're not going to surrender. This is, like, who they worship him. They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, fine, we'll accept unconditional surrender. And I think if the Allies, which Truman and I think Henry Stimson, who was one of Truman's cabinet members, I think both of them had already proposed the idea of maybe saying unconditional surrender, but your emperor gets to stay in power, which both of them were fine with. Truman was perfectly fine with this. He had already stated that he didn't care about the emperor. He just wanted the war to stop. But the Japanese basically kept being like, we're not doing unconditional surrender because they wouldn't change the wording of it. But they were fine surrendering. They didn't want to keep fighting. Maybe jump in that hay bale. Oh, never mind.
So, by the way, I want to tell you real quick, I already messed up the full sync because I
you
accidentally killed the first guy with my own thing.
Oh.
And then I had no way to reset it, and this mission is so obnoxious
Yeah.
that I don't care. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm still doing it this way sometimes because it's easier, but we're not going to get full sync on this, just so you know.
That makes sense. Oh, jeez.
Not that it really matters.
So essentially, the Japanese were already on the cusp of surrendering anyways. You've now involved multiple countries for an invasion force that I think would have significantly decreased the amount of time that an invasion would have happened, which would have saved lives anyways.
So it would have been at minimum all of the Allies and Russia?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, the Allies meaning America and Britain and Russia, because they were the Ally forces.
I didn't know Russia was technically part of it.
Yeah, the Soviet Union was an Allied forces. In fact, they were called the Big Three.
The axe on stage, senor.
The big D.
Yeah.
One of my men will take you to him.
Don't forget, I wear the black shirt. Protect me and wait for pilot's call to the Centurion to strike.
I must get to Pietro before he does.
So yeah, the Big Three were Soviet Union, Britain, and the United States.
Do not kill anyone other than the gunman. I can do that.
Okay. So, you had already involved the Allies for an invasion force of the Japan.
The Japan.
The Japanese were already on the cusp of surrendering anyways. And not to mention, you've already been firebombing the heck out of Japanese cities for the last, like, half a year. Mm-hmm. Tokyo basically was at the point, Tokyo was the capital, obviously.
Right.
They were the point where basically they were, like, nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Americans had been firebombing them so much. And other cities like Kyoto and stuff like that. In fact, that's why Tokyo was not nuked. Is because, like, nothing was in Tokyo anymore. You would have just nuked, like, empty ground, basically.
Well, can I ask you a question? Why not do that?
Why not firebomb them?
No, why not nuke Tokyo? Because here's the thing. That's still an insane display of power that you're willing to drop that
absolutely, yeah.
on the grounds
Right.
of Japan.
Right.
And then you basically just say, hey, it would be a real shame if I dropped this a few hundred miles that way, wouldn't
Right.
it?
I think the reason why they didn't want to do that is because even though they had been firebombing it and there's nothing really left of it, it still was the capital, and that's where all, like, the emperor lived and, like, all the government officials. So I think if their whole purpose was we want Japanese surrender, taking out the entire Japanese government is probably not the way to do it. Like, there's no one then to surrender to you.
Well, but then they won't be fighting.
That's
They'll be
true.
restructuring
That's
the country.
true. Yeah, that's the good point.
I actually thought it was a decent war.
So to me, it's just, I mean, it is kind of a decent one, actually. But to me, it's kind of like, it seems like a total reversal of what your plan was. And then on top of that, if you want to leave the nuking of Hiroshima and kind of say, like, okay, we killed 100,000 people, but we saved 600,000 people, and we displayed our power to them, and then now they know not to mess with us.
Why are you here?
I can get behind it, sure. I understand that point.
I fell down in there and I couldn't figure out how to get out because of the amount of people.
So it's like, I understand that point, but then instead of waiting for them to actually surrender, you then just drop a second nuke on Nagasaki.
Absolutely.
Which killed like 3 times as much people as the Hiroshima bomb did. So I guess to me, it's like, to me the whole situation kind of seemed more like revenge for Pearl Harbor than we want to end the war as fast as possible. To me, it seemed like, hey, well, this will end the war, and we get revenge for Pearl Harbor. Like, that's what it seemed like to me. Like, it really just seemed like they were too excited to just nuke Japan.
Right.
Which, I mean, they kind of were, because, one, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, so we obviously know the results of this. Their estimation was this would kill about 20,000 people. So they didn't actually know what the real extent of the nuclear bomb would be. We do, but they didn't. So I don't really want to judge them too hard because of that, because they had no idea, really.
But they should have.
They should have,
Yeah,
but
like,
they didn't.
If you're developing a weapon, it's pretty important to know what it
Right.
does.
Well, and also everyone knew the extent of this, because everyone, including Truman, described it as, this is the most terrible weapon to ever been created in human history. Like, they all knew the power of this. And plus they launched it at Alamogordo, New Mexico, and they saw it firsthand. 184 miles away from the explosion, you could see light from the nuke going off. 150 miles away, glass windows were being broken. It left a hole in the ground that was 1,000 meters in diameter.
Is that area still tainted?
It's now a missile testing site, but basically there are small...
Pockets?
Small, not cities, but towns that actually have developed in that area.
Oh, and they don't have health problems?
Not that I know of.
Well, that's
But most of the area is like...
They all die of cancer.
Right.
It's weird, but they
Right,
live
I don't
there.
know. I don't get this.
They're having fun.
Most of the area, I will say, is like a government-owned area, so like nothing's even in there. But
Isn't
right
that
outside
where Roswell is?
Where Roswell?
New Mexico?
It might be close to there. But
New Mexico's all the same.
right, New Mexico is all desert anyways. So it's like you know the full extent of this. You know the power that this nuke holds.
But you just said they didn't know.
They didn't know they thought it was a little less than what it actually was. They knew how bad it was, but they didn't know how truly bad it was. You know what I mean?
How he crieth upon Elijah to deliver him.
Wait, and we shall see whether Elijah dare come here or not.
My thirst is great. My thirst is great.
Yea, thou shalt drink no more.
Isn't it weird that like they are recreating the crucifixion, but then they're gonna murder one of the guys who's on the cross?
That is a little weird. That is a little odd. So anyways, that's kind of my long story and my long thoughts on it. Basically, my thoughts are...
Hiroshima attack good.
Right. My thoughts are... I see both sides. I do actually see both sides. I see the side of saying, well, we did technically save 300,000 lives. I see that, sure. But I also see the side of, yeah, but that may have been a little overkill, especially if you were already developing another plan anyways. That could have also have ended the war quickly.
My problem is when you start bringing civilian targets into it, I think you've lost the moral side.
Right. Now, it did not help for Truman and the rest of Americans that also America had become recently heavily angered, and the Allies, not just America, at the Japanese because photographs and stuff like that were starting to come out of the Japanese war crimes of what they were doing to the Allied prisoner of wars, like stuff like the Bataan Death March and the Pahlawi massacre.
And rape.
Yeah. And all this stuff was starting to come out. Like, people were starting to actually see photographs of this happening. Eyewitnesses were starting to escape and being like, they're doing this stuff in these prisoner of war camps, especially in the Philippines. So, like, everyone in the country was already, like, heavily angered towards them anyways, that they were kind of like, okay, we need to take out these Japanese.
Wait, am I supposed to be wearing... Like, am I not supposed to be in this outfit?
I think you're supposed to be wearing the Roman outfit.
Okay, because
So go to
items?
database, I think it is.
Inventory.
No, inventory. Outfits.
Because I think I'm supposed to be wearing, like...
Put on, like, your normal outfit. Because I think if you wear the, yeah.
Doing so will cause you to lose unsafe progress.
Really?
So I think that I'm wearing the wrong outfit?
Yeah, because this outfit overlaps other ones.
Okay, well,
Leave
whatever.
this guy's assassin recruits onto the stage. So, yeah, anyways, my thoughts are I agree with both sides, but I'm more in the mindset now of I don't think really this was the only path you had to go. Like, I think there was other more logical, less gruesome paths that you really had to take it on. Like, I believe it was Eisenhower who told Truman that, well, once you cross over this line, it's basically, you're just going to open the door for other countries to develop a worse bomb and then be like, oh, well, you used it, so we can use it on Chicago or something.
Right.
And I believe that was Eisenhower. It's kind of like, well, once you cross that threshold, you can't really go back because now it's been used before.
Right.
So, I don't know. It was just it's a very interesting topic, I think, but it's pretty sad.
It becomes difficult, too, because other countries were also working on mass weapons.
Yeah, like even Russia was. Truman went before Stalin and Churchill and basically told them, he didn't say we're going to launch the atomic bomb, but he said we are going to use a weapon on them that we're hoping will end the war. And Stalin didn't really say anything, which was one characteristic of him. Well, the reason why he didn't say anything is because Stalin was secretly developing a bomb too.
Right, and they had also stolen some of the technical information of all these weapons being developed by the U.S. during that time.
Well, actually, there was a British scientists who defected to the Soviets and were telling them all of the British secrets about the development of the bomb. That's how Stalin got his own crew working on it, too.
Look, I got him.
You cannot save Pietro. The wine he drank was poisoned. As I promised Cesare, I made doubly sure. I am not yet dead.
I did not come here to kill you. He who is the cause of someone else becoming powerful is the agent of his own destruction.